So the group stages of the World Cup are over, and the biggest casualty of course was Iran. The lads were so close to qualifying, if only they'd beaten Portugal in the final game. Oh, and Germany got knocked out too, that was pretty embarrassing. 16 teams have exited the competition, meaning a wealth of talent will be heading home, so let's take a look at the best starting 11 of players who have been knocked out of the group stages, taking into consideration their performances in Russia and past reputations. In goal is Manuel Neuer. This one's solely based on past reputations, as Manuel Neuer's World Cup did not go to plan at all. Having struggled with injury all season, Neuer was immediately put back into the national team ahead of Barca's Marc-Andre ter Stegen, which probably wasn't a good idea. Neuer failed to keep a clean sheet in the 3 games and just went rogue against South Korea, deciding to play halfway up the pitch as the world champions chased the game. The German stopper ended up with a huge egg on his face though when HeungMin doubled South Korea's lead, having had the freedom of the Germany half after Neuer basically gave up on being a goalkeeper. Centre back is Mehdi Benatia. Now Morocco may have come bottom of Group B, but let's be honest, they were very unlucky. The Iran game was decided by a minging last minute own goal. They had so many chances against Portugal, and they got done over by a last minute equaliser against Spain. Morocco lacked cutting edge, but they more than held their own at the back, with Mehdi Benatia epitomising this, proving why he's played for some of the biggest teams in Europe in Bayern Munich and Juventus. Next up is Carlo Coulibaly. Another team we feel sorry for is Senegal, because they were dumbed out of the competition on fair play, but what was fair about it when Japan just passed the ball about with no intent in their game against Poland because they knew they were going through? All Senegal needed was a goal, but it didn't come, meaning Kalidou Koulibaly will be heading home, but with his head still held high, as he was one of Senegal's strongest performers in Russia, showing exactly why he is so highly rated in Europe right now, and why so many clubs have been after his signature over the past 12 months. There's a myth that African teams can't defend, but Kalidou Koulibaly proves it's just a myth. Our third centre back is Trent Sainsbury. We could have included a German on reputation, but Trent Sainsbury's performances deserve some recognition, as he did brilliantly for Australia, who missed their chance to make it into the last 16 by failing to beat Peru in the 3rd game. The Aussies certainly didn't disgrace themselves though, and Trent Sainsbury was one of their best performers at the back, with the defender really turning heads with his performances out in Russia. Currently playing his football in China, surely Trent Sainsbury will get a move to England this summer, with a lot of championship clubs reportedly chasing his signature. On the right of midfield is Andrea Carillo. Yes, it's another top-heavy 3-4-3 team, and Andrea Carillo is playing out wide after some fantastic performances for Peru, that he capped off with a man-of-the-match performance against Australia, where Carillo scored a stunning volley to get the South Americans on their way to their first win of the tournament. Carillo was exciting to watch every game with his strength on the ball and brilliant dribbling ability, and Watford fans will be wondering where was this guy during the second half of the season. In the middle is Toni Kroos. Our second and last German, Toni Kroos is also mainly here out of reputation, but at least he did do something good during the World Cup, with that stunning last minute free kick against Sweden that gave Germany hope of rescuing their World Cup tournament, and it won made £10, so it was a good night for everyone. Unless you were Swedish, but I suppose they had the last laugh. Kroos remains one of the finest midfielders on the planet, but things didn't go right at all for the Real Madrid star, who at least did get himself an assist, setting up South Korea's opener in the final game. He's alongside Atebo. Christ, what a signing Stoke have pulled off. Nigerian midfielder Atebo can literally do everything, he's brilliant. Nigeria was so unlucky to get knocked out of the World Cup, but they can still be positive as they have a very young squad full of players who can only get better, and one of those is Atebo, who Stoke superbly signed before the tournament began, and his stock rose even higher. The 22-year-old cost the Potters just £6 million before the tournament, and if he can take to English football like he took to the World Cup, then Stoke should have no bother returning to the Premier League at the first time of asking. On the left flank is HeungMin. I mean, how funny was this goal against Germany? But while one of his goals was somewhat comical, his other was absolute brilliance against Mexico, cutting in on his left foot and curling a stunning effort past the helpless Guillaume Ochoa. Son isn't the main man at Tottenham, he's merely a supportive member of the Harry Kane show, but he's all South Korea really have, and yet again he's performed for his country, who recorded a famous victory against world champions Germany to knock them out of the tournament. They celebrated as if they'd won the World Cup, but in reality it was a win that meant nothing in the grand scheme of things. Well done to Son though, you had a good tournament. Our front three begins with Sadio Mane. The Liverpool forward had another great season at Anfield, but the World Cup wasn't quite as straightforward for the Senegal captain. Mane started the tournament in fine form, but it all fell apart slightly in the decisive game against Colombia, with the 26-year-old slipping over at the vital moment every time. Mane can keep his head held high though with his Senegalese teammates, having been kind of unfairly eliminated by fair play, but it's a boost for Liverpool as they get to have their star player back early. Next up is Robert Lewandowski. He's one of the most lethal number 9s in world football, so where exactly did it all go wrong for Robert Lewandowski? It's not like he can't take his club form onto the international stage. He was the joint top scorer in qualifying with 16 goals, yet when it comes to the major tournament, he folds, having had the same problem 2 years ago at the Euros. Poland will be massively disappointed, and they'll be gutted to finish bottom of a group where they're the top seed, and with a player like Robert Lewandowski in their squad, they should have done so much better. And finally we've got Mo Salah. Another player you've got to feel sorry for, because maybe Egypt could have done better at the World Cup if Sergio Ramos hadn't tried to yank Mo Salah's arm off in the Champions League final. You could say Salah wasn't fully fit, but it didn't stop him getting 2 World Cup goals, although they weren't enough to hand Egypt the first World Cup win. On the face of it was quite possible for Egypt to qualify, but with a less than 100% Mo Salah, those chances were severely reduced, and we didn't quite see the same Mo Salah who tore up the Premier League last season. But he still managed to get the same number of goals as the entire German team managed, so swings and roundabouts really. So that's our best knocked out in the group stage of the World Cup 11. Let us know yours in the comments below. Thanks for watching and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.